You know the feeling. That knot in your stomach when you look at someone and just know something is wrong. They smile, they say the right things, but your spirit is screaming, "Run!" God doesn't send that feeling by accident. It is an alarm system designed to save your life. But what happens when an entire nation ignores that alarm? Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, screaming at a car driving full speed toward the edge, and the driver just turns up the radio. This isn't a hypothetical. This is exactly what happened in the 6th century BC. God didn't just whisper. He screamed. He sent a man to act out the death of a city in the most bizarre, terrifying, and heartbreaking ways imaginable. If you have been feeling an inexplicable uneasiness about a specific person or situation in your life right now, do not click away. This is your confirmation. Because the story we are about to tell proves one thing. When God warns you to separate yourself from someone, He isn't being mean. He is clearing the blast zone before the explosion. Let's go back to the scene of the crime, Jerusalem, the city that was supposed to be the heartbeat of God on earth. But by the time we drop into this story, the heartbeat is failing. The year is roughly 593 BC. Politically, Jerusalem is a mouse trapped between two starving lions. To the southwest, you have the fading glory of Egypt. To the north, the rising, bloodthirsty war machine of Babylon. King Zedekiah is on the throne, but he's a puppet, twitching on strings pulled by foreign emperors. He thinks he can outsmart them. He thinks he can play politics. He is wrong, but the political disaster was just a symptom. The disease was deep inside the culture. The city was rotting. You walk through the streets, and you don't see the city of David. You see a crime scene. The rich are cannibalizing the poor. The courts are sold to the highest bidder. And the priests, the men who were supposed to be the moral compass, they are liars. They are preaching peace, peace, when there is no peace. They are whitewashing the rot, telling the people, "Don't worry, we have the temple. God lives here. He can't destroy us." They were arrogant. They truly believed they were untouchable. They whispered in the dark, "The Lord does not see us. The Lord has forsaken the land." They thought God was either blind or absent. They were about to find out He was neither. God needed a voice, but He couldn't use a corrupted priest from inside the city. He needed an outsider, someone who had already lost everything. 700 miles away, sitting in the mud by the river Chebar in Babylon, sits a 30-year-old man named Ezekiel. He should have been at the height of his career, serving in the gold-lined halls of the temple. Instead, he's a prisoner of war, a refugee. He has no temple, no altar, and seemingly no future. And then, the sky rips open. This isn't a polite tap on the shoulder. It is a psychedelic, terrifying invasion of reality. Ezekiel looks up and sees a storm wind coming out of the north, a massive cloud with fire flashing back and forth. In the center, 4 living creatures that defy biology. Beside them, wheels within wheels, covered in eyes, spinning with a logic that belongs to another dimension. And above it all, a throne of sapphire. And on that throne, a figure of fire. This is the glory of the Lord. The very thing the people in Jerusalem thought was locked safely inside their box, inside their temple. But here is God in Babylon, in the dirt with the exiles. Ezekiel drops to his face. He is undone. A voice thunders from the fire. "Son of man, stand up!" God gives him the job description, and it is the worst job offer in history. God says, "I am sending you to the people of Israel, to a nation of rebels." He calls them impudent and stubborn. And then he drops the hammer. "You shall speak my words to them, whether they hear or refuse to hear." God tells Ezekiel, essentially, they are going to hate you, they are going to ignore you, but you are going to tell them anyway. Why? So that when the fire falls, they cannot say they weren't warned. Then, a hand extends from the vision holding a scroll. It's covered in writing on the front and the back. Words of lamentation, mourning, and woe. God commands him, "Eat this scroll." Think about that image. He has to ingest the tragedy. He has to swallow the judgment. Ezekiel opens his mouth, eats the parchment, and experiences a shock. It tastes sweet as honey. It is a paradox that every truth-teller knows. The Word of God is sweet and pure, even when the message it carries is bitter death. Now the warning begins. But words aren't enough for a people this deaf. God turns Ezekiel into a piece of performance art. Imagine walking through the refugee camp and seeing Ezekiel, a respected priest, playing in the dirt like a child. He takes a clay brick and sketches a map of Jerusalem on it. He builds a tiny wall around it. He sets up toy battering rams. Then he takes an iron griddle, a cooking pan, and sets it up as an impenetrable wall between him and the toy city. He stares at it, unblinking. It's madness to the neighbors, but it's a prophecy. The iron wall represents the separation between God and his people. The prayers are hitting the ceiling. The siege is coming. Then it gets harder. God tells him, "Lie on your left side." For 390 days, over a year, he is tied with ropes, unable to turn. He stares at that brick day after day, bearing the punishment of the northern kingdom. Then he flips to his right side for 40 days for the sin of Judah. He isn't just lying there, he is starving. God puts him on a ration diet. 8 ounces of grain, a pint of water. He measures it out with trembling hands, eating with anxiety, showing the people exactly what it looks like to starve to death during a siege. And the fuel for his cooking fire? God commands him to use human waste. Ezekiel, terrified, begs for mercy, and God allows him to use cow manure instead. It is a picture of total defilement. The people of God eating unclean bread in an unclean land. Finally, the barber's blade. Ezekiel takes a sharp sword and shaves his head and beard, a sign of extreme shame for a priest. He takes the hair and divides it. 1/3 he burns in the fire. These are the people who will die of plague and famine inside the walls. 1/3 he hacks with the sword. These are the people who will be slaughtered trying to escape. 1/3 he throws into the wind, the scattered survivors. He keeps only a few tiny hairs tucked in his pocket. That is the remnant. That is how close Israel came to total extinction. But why? Why is God so angry? To answer that, God grabs Ezekiel by the Spirit and teleports him supernaturally from Babylon back to Jerusalem, right inside the temple walls. It is a covert operation. God says, "Do you see what they are doing? But you will see greater abominations than these." He takes Ezekiel to a wall and points to a hole. "Dig," God commands. Ezekiel digs through the stone and finds a secret door. He steps into a hidden chamber. The walls are covered in graffiti, carvings of snakes, reptiles, and loathsome beasts. And standing there, in the dark, are 70 elders of Israel, the leaders, the men in charge. They are swinging censers of incense, worshipping these drawings. You can almost hear their whispers echoing in the dark chamber. The Lord does not see us. They are practicing atheism in the dark, while playing priest in the light. But it gets worse. God moves him to the north gate. There, women are weeping for Tammuz, a Babylonian fertility god. They are performing pagan rituals on God's front porch. And finally, the ultimate insult, the inner court. Between the porch and the altar, the holiest ground on earth. 25 men are standing there, but they aren't looking at the temple. Their backs are turned to the sanctuary. They are facing east, bowing down to the sun. They have literally turned their backs on God to worship a ball of gas in the sky. God has seen enough. He tells Ezekiel, "My eye will not spare, nor will I have pity." He calls for the executioners. 6 supernatural beings appear with weapons, and one man dressed in linen with a writing kit. God gives the order. Go through the city. Put a mark on the forehead of the men who sigh and groan over all the abominations. This is crucial. God separates the sheep from the goats before the slaughter. If you were heartbroken by the sin around you, you got a mark of life. If you were comfortable with the sin, you were a target. Then the order drops. Kill old men, young men, maidens, and little children, but touch no one on whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Judgment doesn't start in the world. It starts in the church. It starts with the leaders who knew better. The final blow to Ezekiel is personal. It is cruel, and it is profound. The word of the Lord comes to him. Son of man, behold, I am taking away the delight of your eyes with a single stroke, yet you shall not mourn or weep. That evening, Ezekiel's wife dies. The woman he loved, his partner in this exile, gone. And the next morning, Ezekiel wakes up, puts on his turban, puts on his shoes, and goes to work. No tears, no funeral wailing, just silence. The people are freaked out. They ask, "Why are you doing this?" And Ezekiel delivers the hardest message of his life. Just as I have done, so you will do. He tells them that Jerusalem is falling. Their sons, their daughters, their beautiful temple, the delight of their eyes, is being destroyed right now. And when the news hits them, they won't even have the strength to cry. They will be so stunned, so hollowed out by the horror, that they will just rot away in their silence. For months, Ezekiel goes mute. He literally cannot speak. He waits. Then, a refugee stumbles into the camp. His clothes are torn. He looks at Ezekiel and gasps 3 words. The city has fallen. The warning is over. The reality is here. But this is where the plot twists. Because God is not just a destroyer. He is an architect of resurrection. In the aftermath of the genocide, when the people are saying, "Our bones are dried up, our hope is lost," God takes Ezekiel to a valley. It is filled with human bones, bleached white by the sun, very dry. This is a picture of a dead nation. God asks the impossible question, "Son of man, can these bones live?" Logically? Physics? Medicine? The answer is no. But Ezekiel looks at the God who sits on the sapphire throne and says, "O Lord God, you know." God says, "Prophesy." Suddenly a rattling sound. Click, clack, snap. Bone finds bone. Femur locks into hip. Ribs cage the heart. Then muscle weaves over the bone. Then skin. But they are just corpses. Mannequins. "Prophecy to the breath," God commands. The wind hits the bodies. Lungs inflate. Eyes open. And a massive army stands up on its feet. God looks at Ezekiel and says, "I will put my spirit within you, and you shall live." This is the warning and the promise. If you are sensing a warning in your spirit today, a warning to cut ties, to move, to change, do not ignore it. That uneasiness is God's mercy. He is trying to get you out of Jerusalem before the siege wall goes up. He creates the separation so he can bring the restoration. He may have to break the bone to reset it, but he is the only one who can make dry bones breathe again. He removes the wrong people to make room for the resurrection. Listen to the warning. Your breakthrough is on the other side of your obedience.